beggar had been sitting by the side of the road for over 30 years. And one day a stranger walked by. "Spare some change," mumbled the beggar, mechanically holding out his baseball cap. "I'm sorry, I have nothing to give you," said the stranger. But then he asked, "What's that you're sitting on?" "Nothing," replied the beggar. "Just an old box I have been sitting on for as long as I can remember." "Ever look inside?" asked the stranger. "No," said the beggar. "What's the point? There's nothing in there." "Have a look inside," insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid, and with astonishment and disbelief and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. And that's just an illustration. I don't know if it's true or not. It's probably not, but it works for me. Because the story illustrates that sometimes we are all sitting on a gold mine and I'm not even aware of it. And this morning we are bringing this powerful series that I have been doing on our CSO, which means what? Chief Spiritual Officer. Perfect. Chief Spiritual Officer, which we all have, to a close by exploring what it really means to move into the spiritual dance called Abun-Dance. Don't you love that? Abun-Dance. And so what an amazing month that we have had so far, I think, as we have explored these ideas consistently and regularly by doing these things. Walking on a pathway of God's plenty, a journey of the joy of spirit, and a course in conscious creation. And we've been using two books, May McCarthy, Path of Wealth, and Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. So these are two amazing books that we've been drawing from, but today we are complete with those books. Because today I want to share with you some deeper understanding and what needs to take place in order for us to create a life of abundance. Do we want to create a life of abundance? Yes. I think so. Remember, as I said earlier this month, the concept of abundance isn't exclusive to material wealth, right? It's not. I just had this talk with one of our members today. It's peace of mind, it's health, it's joy, it's love, it's all of those things. So when I talk about abundance, I'm talking about all of those different areas of our lives. So let's start with defining abundance in an expanded way. First, what does the word mean to you? Shout out some words. Abundance, what does it mean to you?
Prosperity.
Prosperity.
Health.
Joy. Health. Joy. Peace.
Lots of stuff.
Love.
Lots of stuff.
All the good of God.
Fulfillment.
Anyway.
So, those things are all correct and wonderful, but I want to know that there's something so much more than those words, than what anyone has said, and what everyone has said is correct. But perhaps I should say there is something that comes before any of those qualities can be experienced. Abundance is really a state of mind. It is a consciousness. So you've heard John Randolph Price, many a filmer who I'm going to be quoting, are absolutely adamant about deepening and understanding what it is to have an abundance consciousness. That's it, that consciousness. It's not just having things or experiences. It's the consciousness that attracts the things and the experiences. That's what attracts them into our lives. It's a way of living life. It's a way of living life and of thinking and being and acting in the world. So you probably think of people who seem to have all the physical things in the world in their lives. Quite wealthy they look, yet they hoard. They're in fear. They're in fear and they're constantly worried about losing what they have, and they're trying to get more. These people are not they're coming from lack and limitation, so they are not in an abundance consciousness. And then there are others who live what might seem meager lives with not a lot, but they have everything they ever need when they need it, and they are secure and happy. They are abundant because they have an abundant consciousness. The Bible is so rich with metaphors about our consciousness. So I have a little story from the Bible. One of the 12 spies Moses sent out to the promised land was Joshua. When he returned from that prosperous land, he described it as rich in every way. He brought back the evidence of rich, tasty grapes. And he said this was the land of milk and honey. But he was alone. Only he saw that. The other 11 spoke in negative terms. And they spoke of giants and other reasons why they should not go forward. So Moses declined and decided to wait. For the next 40 years, Moses, Joshua, and the children of Israel roamed the desert, just on the border of the land of plenty. That Moses, 40 years in the desert. Right there. But how do we live our lives? Is it something like that? When Joshua became the leader of the people, he waited no longer. He led his people into the land in 3 days. It was accomplished. In Hebrew, this is interesting, the name Joshua is identical to Jesus. Both of them are derived from the word Jehovah, meaning I am that I am. Both of them, it's the holiest thing you could ever say. I am that I am. It means I am one with the infinite love of God. I am one with all that is. Anyway, both of them symbolize the consciousness of oneness. Joshua and Jesus. They really taught about oneness and unity, which is what our principles here, our spiritual principles teach. We are one with all that is. There is no separation. We just think there is. So how can we attain this consciousness of abundance? Well, let me give you a couple of ideas. Here's a couple of things that I've done and I've not done. Has anyone here ever done the fire walk? Yes, okay. Yeah, anyone that, did you do it with Edwin Gaines?
No, I did it with that guy, Tony Robbins.
Oh, Tony Robbins, okay. That guy. Well, Edwin Gaines has this retreat center in Minton, Alabama. And even if you've never done it, you can imagine that there's a touch of fear as you stand there looking out of this runway, these hot embers, they're burning, hot coals, knowing that you're about to put your bare feet on them. No matter how well you have mentally and spiritually prepared for that moment, there's got to be some resistance and fear.
Yeah, I was at the end of the line.
Now, I have not personally done this, but many of my minister friends have, so they have told me about the experience. But I've done a few things that are a little similar to that. Dancing on broken glass, yes. We did that several times. I mean, it's really broken glass and you're dancing on it. It's amazing. Same thing, coming over and many times I've broken 3 pieces of wood with my head. Most of you know that I'm a martial artist. So, which is why I walk like this, you know, now. 30 years of that, banging my head against. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's getting yourself centered in a place where you know nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. But there will, no matter how much you prepare, there will always be some resistance and a little bit of fear. And it's extremely important. Edwin Gaines says there are 3 important and powerful things, which are the same 3 extremely important and powerful things that we tell ourselves to keep us, this is what we've been talking about all month, on our pathway of God's plenty, our journey of the joy of spirit, and the course of conscious creation. So whenever things look scary, and they do a lot of the times, there are 3 there are 3 sayings, and these are from Edwina Gaines, who's like such a prosperity queen. She drives a pink Cadillac, yeah? Yeah, she was absolutely awesome. We've seen her a few times. Amazing woman. The first one is pay attention. The second one is expect the best. And the third one is go for it. Take the first step. I'm going to get into all of them. And then you dance the dance. You walk the walk. You break the break. Let's use those 3 ideas as a formula for our dance of abundance consciousness, which is what we're going to talk about today. First, pay attention to 2 things. First, to the lavish abundance and support that the universe naturally provides. Most of the time, we're not awake, we're not aware, we just meander through life. We're just in a fog. But there is so much good that's always present. So pay attention. It's been said that an inquisitive fellow decided he wanted, this is interesting, to compute how much money it would cost a day to feed all the birds in the world. He was a scientist type and knew his computers. So he inputted all that data in the computer bank. And you know what the result was? He found out that there is not enough wealth in all the nations of the world to feed those birds for even one day. Wow. And thank goodness the birds didn't listen to him or didn't know about it. Just look at it and stop and think about that. There's not enough wealth in all the nations to feed the birds of this world for even one day. But do the birds get fed? Yes. The first step in developing a deeper, richer, more holy dance with divine abundance is to pay attention to the present, to really be in that now moment. We talk about it, we hear about it, but really live it. And just experience all the wealth that is in that moment. The power that this universe has already lavishly provided you with, the good, with ideas, with resources. These are all abundance. All those ideas that you get. And they feel like they came out of nowhere, but they came out of somewhere. And that's abundance right there, right there. All you could ever want or really need is already present. We hear this in all the abundant and prosperity teachings, and a lot of times we go, yeah, right, well, what happened to me? But it is there with that awareness to clarify our own thinking, examining our thoughts and our feelings about God as our source. Do we do that? Do we really believe that God is our source?
Yes.
Yes.
If we really believe that, we would never have fear about anything in life, would we? If we really believe that God is the source of all good, many channels, but one power, one source that has created us and that will always provide for us. Yes. And I love this passage at Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4. Every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. So let's just keep that. God is this is my greatest affirmation. God is my source and supply of all good all the time. I repeat that over and over again, especially when things in life, because we're gonna have things come up in life, when they get a little scary or frightening. Wait a minute, take a breath. God is my source and supply. Charles Fillmore, great founder of Unity, great book, Prosperity. I'm going to use that today. He wrote this in his book, Prosperity. Poverty or prosperity, it all depends on you. All that the Father has is yours, but you alone are responsible for that relationship of the Father's good to your life. Through conscious recognition of your oneness with the Father and His abundance, you draw the living substance into visible supply. So I call God it, but a lot of the old-timers in New Thought, old-timers 100, 200 years ago, will say he. So you can say it like I do if that bothers you. So anyway, the important thing is to first Pay attention to God's lavish abundance and support already provided, in which you are immersed because you are one with it. You are one with it. Remember that. It looks like we're separate because we have this sense of sight, but we are not separate. We are eternal beings, and we exist in this oneness of life. And this is a God, we talk about a God that is pure love. And if a God is pure love, there could be no opposition. There could be no judgment in that God. So there could be no fear in that God. That God is pure, unconditional love. I love these teachings. These teachings get us through life and live our life in joy and in happiness. Why have it the other way, in fear and lack and limitation? No. Anyway. You will experience incredible manifestations when you're in that flow. This is the knowing, the belief, and that's the consciousness of abundance. That's what it means to have the consciousness of abundance, to truly believe there is one source. The second part of our tips today, the second part is paying attention. Paying attention to what the inner work is that you need to do. Because we are constantly, especially here and in the classes and the Sunday stuff, we're doing work within ourselves to get ourselves to a place of clarity, of peace within us. So you think, where are those roadblocks in you to your greater good? What old, worn-out beliefs are you dragging? We did a whole thing with Pat Hogan last week with the rope and everything. Are you dragging around? What are you dragging around that's holding you down, that needs to be released, dissolved, let go of? So pay attention. Pay attention to that and do what you need to release them. Do what you need to release them. In the last couple of months, I'll use me, I've overcome so many limiting beliefs within myself. Things that were holding me stuck. That there was no freedom in that. Oh, I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of that. So all of these were working in my head all the time. What happened was when I moved through the fear, faced it and moved through it, because you can't avoid it. Can't do a spiritual bypass, as we call it, go around it. You got to go through it. You got to feel it, and you got to do it, and then you see what happens at the other end. It is amazing. The freedom that comes from all of these made-up beliefs, myself, they're made up, they're not real. So they're really, when people say it's a dream, I agree with that. And guess what? Once they are faced and you've transformed your beliefs, because you will transform them when you move through them, you don't go back to the old belief because you've already moved through it. You have a new belief, and all of those old beliefs are dissipated, are dissolved. They really are gone. And I'll give you a real quick one. Just this week, my son and his wife and 2 children rented a house down the shore, and there were 3 bedrooms. Of course, one had bunk beds, but okay. I have never accepted an invitation ever to stay over at any of their rentals, any of the places that they've invited me to stay over. I just go home late that night. Why? Because my mind is telling me, oh, I'm not going to sleep, or they keep the temperature too cold, or the kids are going to wake me up in the morning. It goes on and on and on. I mean, I've been doing this now, all right? The kids are 6. They've never seen me in the morning, ever. They've never. My sister was with me, and I decided, really consciously, because I was leaving right up to the last minute, I decided, you know what? This is another one of those beliefs that I'm not going to be able to sleep, and I'm going to be uncomfortable, blah, 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 that I'm going to move through, and I did. And what joy. To wake up in the morning, I stretch every morning. I'm stretching, and these kids are on the floor with me they think I'm doing yoga. They're doing yoga with me. Grandma, let's meditate. They learn it in school. These are things I would not have experienced, you see? And it goes on, the list is huge. And that's for all of us when we move through that fear. Oh, it's wonderful. So after you pay attention, then expect the best. I love that. Again, Charles Fillmore in Prosperity wrote this: the spiritual substance from which all visible wealth is never depleted. It is right with you all the time and responds to your faith in it and your demands on it. That's a demand. It is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times. Though we are affected because our thoughts and our words govern our demonstrations. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will be prospered through all the banks of the world, though all the banks of the world may close their doors. This is really a movement in prosperity. And what are we telling ourselves? Oh, ain't it awful? Oh, well, this isn't going to work because I don't have this, I don't have that. Let's focus on what we want, because the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, the spiritual laws of the universe will respond to what you are thinking and feeling. So if you are thinking and feeling from lack and limitation, you will get more of it. You will get more of it. So again, it's changing our thoughts. Expect the best. Think about the story of the woman who touched Jesus' garment and was healed. There were thousands of people in that crowd that day, but only the woman who had faith in that substance got it. Only because she had faith that she would be healed. It was already established in her consciousness, and she knew her needs would be met if she could make contact. She expected to be healed if she could touch the hem of his robe. Fillmore, in his book Prosperity Again, writes this. This is important. Do not say that money is scarce. The very statement will scare money away from you. Do not say that times are hard with you. The very words will tighten your purse strings until omnipotent itself cannot slip a dime into it. Begin now to talk plenty, think plenty, and give thanks for plenty. Make it a game. It's lots of fun, and better than that, it actually works. It works when we keep, I call it a mind check. We keep checking what we're thinking. What am I thinking? You know, your body will let you know about how it feels. And you go back to what am I thinking and just shift it. Just shift it. Expect to be prosperous. Expect to have all your needs, wants, and desires taken care of. Expect it. And if those things haven't occurred yet, if they haven't happened yet, things are not finished. This is good. I like this. I love this idea, actually. That all things are good in the end, if there's an end. So if it isn't good right now, it isn't the end. So when we say it's all good and nothing is happening, expect it. Expect that good. I'm telling you, this stuff works. I know it works. I've lived it. And many people here have stories about how they lived it. The last thing to do before stepping out in faith as you follow the guidance of your CSO, Chief Spiritual Officer, that's from weeks ago, is to say and do. Go for it. Take the first step. This is key. Take the first step. This is the next part of Edwin Gaines' steps. So imagine standing at the edge of that burning white hot coal emanating runway of the runway of hot coals. This may be what following a piece of guidance from that spiritual officer within you has given you, but still the human part of you is there with sweaty hands, dry mouth, heart palpitating, with thoughts of what the heck am I about to do? What did I get myself into? All of those things swirling around in your head. You receive guidance to move in a specific direction. It doesn't mean that the fear will go away while you're doing it. You do it anyway, even with the fear. And that fear can feel like an impenetrable wall. But it really isn't a wall. Remember this. It really isn't a wall. It's more like a membrane, a veil, like a bubble. And all you have to do to penetrate it is to go for it and to take that first step, that very first step. So a member of our Mastery of Love class, which is going on right now, great class, shared a story of how, she's not here, I'm not going to say her name, but she shared a story of how she was terrified of ziplining. But she was with her family. The family was like egging her on, and she really wanted to do it, but she was terrified to zipline, completely terrified. And she was at that precipice of the cliffs, and she had all of this fear and anxiety going on within her. And her mind had millions of excuses. Oh, all these excuses, you know how we do that. All of these excuses. But then another voice within her really wanted to be a part of the family experience. Everybody was going to zip line, and then they were all going to talk about it afterwards. And she wouldn't know what it felt like. She wanted to do it. She was so scared. But she took the first step. She took that first step. Ooh. And by taking that first step, she got to join in. It was so empowering for her. It's a small thing, but these are the things in life. There is no big or small in the universe. You've got to move forward in life, and to move forward, you must take that first step. And then the next step, and then the one that follows that. I say that all the time, one step in front of the other. It's how I move through life. I don't think of the whole great big thing. I think one step in this moment forward, one step after the other step. And know that the universe is always supporting me. I've proven this to myself over and over again. The universe really is always supporting me. So, there was a real quick analogy here. Because it's really important to know and to move through things, to say to yourself and believe that God is holding your hand, that you're with your CSO, you're with a power where there is no fear. There is only love, and there is only that presence of can do any limitless potentiality. So I had a fear of flying. Oh my gosh, I was like the crazy person sitting in the, with the hands and the legs and making all kinds of noises. To fly with me was a real trip. So one day I'm going to fly alone to California. Go to a Michael Beckwith conference, actually, this is many years ago. And I decided that I was flying and God was the co-pilot. God was flying that plane. I was not alone. I flew in that plane to California, then got on one of those prop planes afterwards. And because I really believed that this power was with me, and was with the pilot, and was with anyone that was operating that plane, I have never had a fear of flying again. And that was in, I think, 2002. I just got over it because I really believed that there was a presence for good that was flying with me. So try that. If you have some kind of fears that don't allow you to, what a great time I had. Wow, I would have missed all of that if I would have let the fear control me. So to summarize these points, develop a consciousness of abundance. Pay attention to God's lavish abundance everywhere, as well as the inner work that we do on ourselves. And then expect the best. Expect the best. If it isn't the best, it isn't finished right now. Love that. Because we want to manifest a beautiful place for Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, and we expect it. So it's not finished yet. I can't wait for it to be finished, but I'm holding that vision, and I know many of you are. And then break through that membrane of fear by going for it, by taking that first step. And so, let me leave you today and leave the month's theme we have a different talk for next week, with Charles Fillmore's prosperity prayer, which I actually printed up and put in everyone's bulletin, but you don't have to pull it out now. Everybody, it's just in there because I know you're going to come up to me afterwards and say, could you send me that prayer? So I printed it. So this is known as the 23rd Psalm Revised. This is from his book, Prosperity. The Lord is my banker, my credit is good. He maketh me to lie down in the consciousness of omnipresent abundance. He giveth me the key to his strong box. He restoreth my faith in his riches. He guideth me in the path of prosperity for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the very shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy silver and thy gold, they secure me. Thou preparest a way for me in the presence of the collector. Thou fillest my wallet with plenty. My measure runneth over. Surely goodness and plenty will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall do business in the name of the Lord forever. So, isn't that cool? So as we dance this Abun-Dance, as we do this together, remember these points. Remember them. Remember that we are on a pathway of God's plenty, that the journey of joy and spirit is our journey, and that we consciously can create our lives. Pay attention. Consciously create. And I leave you with that, and so it is.